Live action. Hello. Welcome to the show, better known as the Best Coast Sports Connection. We are live once again from McGregor's in Mission Valley. Gentlemen, greetings.
Andy, good evening.
Yeah, it's turned into evening quickly.
Yeah, it's dark out. Yeah. This might be the first dark out podcast we've done.
Blackout. Here we go.
I like it. Let's do this.
Gentlemen, welcome to another week, another amazing sports week. And
Number 13.
Amazing, I mean, just plenty of action.
Yeah, a lot of action.
Maybe not amazing if you're still not in the Survivor League, which
Thanks for bringing it up,
took another life here at the Connection. I lost 2 weeks ago. Brian lost this past Sunday at the hands of the Cowboys. Thomas stays alive.
I feel like I lost, though.
Right?
I mean, your team should have lost. It took a miracle and the officials, the three blind mice ref to keep you alive. But I kept reflecting back. Andy, didn't you say that a year ago the Cowboys knocked you out of the Survivor League?
But it was like
I was
week 10,
thinking,
though.
okay.
But still.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just throwing
shots fired, Thomas. He goes, oh, yeah, sorry. It was week 10. Anyway, I was thinking about you. I was like, wow, okay, so now we're both going to hate the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So I never had a reason to dislike the Cowboys before. And now I hate them with fiery passion. They're my second most hated team in the NFL. You all know what the first one is. Sure. That's self-explanatory. But, yeah, the Dallas Cowboys, now they are on my poop list.
Rough Sunday for them. And as you tweeted out, they outplayed the Jets in a lot of ways. It just did not translate onto the scoreboard.
Yeah, I want to look at exactly what that was because it was brutal.
Okay.
So I'm getting ready.
I'm ready for this because
okay.
I think I liked it or commented on it.
NFL teams are 90-1 since 1991 when they win time of possession, total yards, turnovers, pick up 25 first downs, and convert at least 10 or more third down attempts.
Wow.
Dallas's loss to the Jets on Sunday is the one loss in 91 games. And that was my team. That's how I went out.
That hit you right in the gut.
And that's how I went out of my first Survivor League. Yeah.
That's
ouch.
What is normally the case when you lose in a Survivor League. It's a game that shouldn't have been lost.
Yep.
Yours was probably worse than mine when I picked Tennessee. The only, the thing for them was they missed 4 field goals that shouldn't have happened. So it's
that
just
hurts.
Something, that the statistics can't predict, right?
Yeah. There's a situation like that with the Chargers when they were in San Diego, maybe the last or second to last year, and there was some stat where teams were 30-2 in games where they led by 17 points or more going into the fourth quarter, and those 2 losses were the Chargers that year.
Good night.
Yeah, I hate stuff like that, but that's one of the beauties of football, and that kind of stuff happens all the time. So that's the reason we do the Survivor League. I hope we get to do it again next year. I'm already looking toward next year.
Yeah,
Thomas is still on this year. He's like, all right, this week I'm picking. You picking the Niners this week? Who are you picking?
Buffalo. They're playing the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, that was it. The two top dogs this week are Buffalo at home against Miami, 17-point favorites. And then the other terrible team in the NFL, the Washington Redskins, at home, taking on the San Francisco 49ers, but the Niners a 9.5-point favorite. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that technical difficulty. We have a studio audience here. I'm going to blame it on them.
Yeah. I feel like Spencer probably broke something. Maybe Sharpie.
Stepped on a cord, tripped over a cord.
Yep, all their fault.
All right, Thomas, Andy, and Brian here on the Connection. Brian, we were talking about that scintillating Dolphins-Redskins game this past Sunday.
Goes down one of the greatest in NFL history.
Hey, anytime a game comes down, 6 seconds to go, a team down by 7, they score a touchdown, and then they go for 2, which we already learned is a win, or lose proposition, and then they go for the 2. I always think that's about the most exciting play in football. They missed it and lost, and they're going to lose 16 games this year because of it, but on the other hand, it could have gone to overtime. They could have finished tied, and both teams could be 0-15-1, having tied each other. Who would get the first pick in the draft at that point?
I don't
Do
know.
you revert back to like a year ago's records, or
Flip a coin, baby. No.
Well, technically, it would revert back to common, like records against common opponents.
oh, so he knows the real
Yeah,
answer.
exactly.
See, that's,
Yeah,
that's why we
which
bring
those,
Thomas
Those
in. for
probably
that,
aren't going to
yeah.
be the same exact records. Okay, so Thomas put down his pick this week as the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
You already picked the Patriots, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're the other highly favored team. They're on the road against the Jets, although that may not be the best decision.
I don't want to hear about the Jets.
I don't
alright?
know if anybody else has the Jets, or has the Patriots remaining in our league, but we are down to 13. The Bishop clan is out of it.
Yep.
Vilvin's still got a couple relatives
Yeah,
involved.
we got a couple in there.
Yeah. So always fun, but I say it takes another 5 weeks to finish.
5 weeks, huh?
It's in 6 weeks we've lost 42 people, 52 people,
Yeah, 52. It's a lot.
and we only have 13. So I say it's going to take 5 weeks. Week 11.
Is that our new bet? Are we now
Yeah,
gonna?
right. Exactly. That's all we got to go with.
Over under on weeks left in the Survivor pool. All right, I'll
7,
take
8,
the
9,
I'll take
10.
the under.
No, I'm
I think
going to say week 12. So this is week 7, right?
7. Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10. No, I say week 11. Week 11.
You keep changing. How am
So
I supposed to
couldn't do
make
the
a
math
valid
in
bet
my
here?
head? So I was
All right.
thinking
Well,
12,
I
but
think
week
by
11.
week 10 it's over.
All right.
Whoa.
So I'm going under. You take 11. I'm going under. Thomas will be out next week, so it won't matter.
Yeah, I
Who
will
you-
say I don't like the trend of me losing
Week
one
to
week,
week, yeah.
Brian. But hey, we're cheering for you. You're our last great hope,
Yeah,
Thomas.
I really feel the support.
Yeah, I got my money on Thomas.
I
I don't.
Buffalo. That would be a miracle if they lost. Okay, well let's switch over to the other big NFL storyline this week, especially as it hits close to our hearts. And it was pretty amazing what happened on Sunday night in Carson. The whole nation had a chance to watch it
Yep.
as the Chargers got dismantled by a Pittsburgh team that was starting their third-string quarterback. But, of course, most notably were the storylines of it being a Pittsburgh-dominated cheering section in the 25,000-seat. What is it called? Something Health, Dignity, something Stadium?
Doesn't matter.
How does Dignity
in there?
a word
Yeah.
in the
It's one of those
Chargers
ironic
sponsor?
names. Yeah.
Okay,
like Little
anyways,
John.
Spanos Mortuary, I believe, is the name of it.
I like that, Thomas.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Okay, what was going through your guys' heads as you watched that game or in the aftermath of it all? Thomas?
Well, to me, it was the Chargers caused all the ruckus because they played the Steelers song, and instead they tried what they wanted to do was to play the Steelers song and then override it with their, I guess, their new fight song. And it never worked because the Steelers fans then stood up and started singing the song that has overwhelmed the stadium. And to me, I don't think it would have been an issue if the Chargers players didn't actually say something in the locker room, and they seemed really perturbed by it. And you really saw their emotions because a few of them actually said, we know we play a lot of games on the road. We don't have an atmosphere here, and why are people in our front office throwing it in our face now? So you see that they realize, for the last 2.5 years that they have no fan base, and they don't expect to have a fan base as long as they're LA Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so embarrassing. That was. I know that the Steelers have a really good fan base and that they travel well anywhere that they go and play. Mm-hmm. But to see that many Steeler fans in an away stadium, I mean, they're playing in the soccer stadium, which if I wasn't so passionately opposed to this franchise, I'd probably go want to see a game there because it's a unique atmosphere to see
Sure.
a game in. But it's just embarrassing what's happening. They really don't have a fan base in Los Angeles. They've lost probably 80% of their fan base in San Diego. They are like a homeless team. And starting next year, the Chargers will be the only team that doesn't own the stadium in which they play. So they really will be the only homeless team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And it's just sad. Like, this is a team that for my entire life I bled Charger colors and to see how far they've fallen in the 3 years since they left San Diego. It really is embarrassing is the only word I can think of.
Embarrassing is a good word. Of course, you don't feel sad for them, but there was like the very, very, very small percentage of me that wants to cheer for the Chargers in that type of situation. Being a primetime game, they're rocking the powder blues. Like, for our entire livelihood outside of the last 2 years, that was the type of game that I wouldn't be able to sleep on a Saturday night for.
Totally.
Right?
The build-up for the week coming into that, like, the Chiefs lose earlier in the day, so you feel like the division is right there for the taking, and then they went out and chargered.
Right? So there was that small, very small percentage of me, but then it really was, in my opinion, a beautiful fruition of the terrible decisions that owner Dean Spanos has made to move the Chargers to Los Angeles. Again, you mentioned they're homeless. As I mentioned, just being outnumbered by the Steelers fans. All I saw on the internet was pictures and videos of it being 80, 85, 90% Steelers fans. And how would you feel if you're still a Chargers fan, right? That's embarrassing. Like, how do you want to go to the next game when you know whoever it's going to be?
Aren't the next few games that are actually at home the Packers, the Vikings, and the Raiders?
Yeah.
Like that. Those are the only 3 home games they have left because they're playing Kansas City on the road.
Yeah.
They're not going to I hated going to the Charger-Raider games in those last couple of years because, it felt kind of dangerous. Like, there was a ton of fights. There was so many Raider fans, and it just had a different feel than the normal atmosphere at the Murph. I would not feel comfortable going to a home game in that, whatever the hell we want to call it, stadium, whatever it is. Yeah, I just wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
I would never go to that stadium. I wouldn't even go to Inglewood for the Chargers either. The one thing I get is it pains me to believe, but I'm indifferent because I haven't followed the team now for 2.5 years, and even when I watch a game, I like Keenan Allen, but because he was here in San Diego and we saw him, grow up sort of as a professional athlete. But every time they lose a player or they cut a player that had San Diego roots, it also cuts my roots from them. Somebody asked me this morning, would you go right back and watch them? And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think it would have to be, I would want a lot of different circumstances for them to come back here. Obviously, the owner would be one, and it also, the league owes them a big apology because I was there that night at Spreckles Theater when they had that so-called town hall meeting, and I wrote at the time it felt like a divorce proceeding because it was airing out your grievances, and that's what these fans did. And the NFL just sat there and took it, and nobody from the Chargers was there. It was all NFL heads, and they were like, "We'll take this for you," and and they promised. We're still working on trying to get something done, but everybody that was in that theater knew that this team was leaving. And there was nothing the NFL could say that would made you believe that there was an outside shot of them building a stadium in San Diego. And to me, that's the most gutless part of this whole thing is the Spanos family, if you don't have guts and you want to sneak out of town at midnight or whatever, have the guts to at least show up and say that I'm out of here. Take your lumps. What do you care? You're not going to be back. Alex Spanos and his whole family, they don't live in San Diego anymore. So what do you care? It was that night to me still it's vivid in my head. I remember every minute of it, standing outside with season ticket holders, talking to them, and I mean season ticket holders from Balboa Stadium that came out of their way to voice their opinion. And to me, I felt so bad for those people in particular because they were there from day one. I was fortunate enough to have a grandmother live out here with some of my family, and that's how I became a Chargers fan. I kind of jumped on, after the fact, but But meeting people from this, from the AFL days, those are the people I felt bad for because they got deserted and they didn't deserve to have that type of feeling that night.
Yeah, it sucks for former Chargers fans, and I think it's a bad look for the NFL as well. But apparently Roger Goodell doesn't think so.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And he's the guy making the big decisions and saying what needs to be said about it. He doesn't think it's a problem. He thinks it's because the big storied franchises travel well, and that it's not a problem for the Chargers as they're going to be moving into a new home or becoming the tenant at a new home. I think the football fans across America see it, but I don't know it. I mean, they're going to move to LA, and that's what's going to happen. And you're not going to get a team back here for a long time, if at all.
Well, on the Roger Goodell piece, we talked about it a little bit before we went on today, and he just seems kind of like a puppet, kind of like the press secretary, if you will, where he's just deflecting questions, not actually answering anything. Nothing's ever a problem. Like, everything is hunky-dory all the time. That's the take he has, and that's the approach he's going to, what's happening behind closed doors when the owners are in there and they're getting upset about the look and, the perception of the league because of this. And, of course, that stuff has to be going on. Roger Goodell's going to paint a pretty picture of it, but there's no way that that's really how they all feel behind closed doors.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to be said on it. Just makes us more and more depressed.
Yeah, totally.
So, and to put the icing on top of this pile of dog do, Phillip Rivers threw an interception at the end of the game that lost me a game by 1 point in fantasy. His touchdown to Hunter Henry put me up 1 point, and then his interception with 30 seconds left made me lose by a point. So it's sad that I have Chargers players on my team, right? And so there's a very
I don't draft them.
Very minuscule amount that wants me to at least have their offense do good for fantasy purposes. But man,
Brian warned you.
I know, right? I'm a terrible soul here.
Where's Phillip Rivers gonna play next year?
Yeah, that's an intriguing question. Washington Redskins, Miami
He
Dolphins.
needs to go somewhere that's good. He would never.
Okay, so
yes,
there was
I
Tennessee
agree.
Titans.
Totally.
Right? There was talk of this years back, right?
Yeah.
When he was coming up on a new contract.
Yep.
That seemed like a place that might fit. He's from the South,
Yep.
right? They needed a quarterback at the time.
They still do. Yep.
Yeah, they ended up drafting Marcus Mariota, and
Yep.
who'd went in for him on Sunday?
Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. So they still need a quarterback.
Yeah, so Tennessee, baby.
What about Denver?
I think Denver would be great. I was thinking, in terms of like trade destinations, Tennessee would be a team that might trade for him. Obviously, he could leave, and they wouldn't have to trade at the end of this season, so that's when Denver would make sense. Denver has paid a ton of money for quarterbacks that haven't worked out over the last handful of years, but if they could get – and the Chargers would never trade him to Denver, so a trade is not possible, but I think that would be the perfect destination for him. And I could see him winning a Super Bowl in Denver. Look at the defense that they have. They'll have everybody healthy again next season, presumably. The offense isn't terrible. They've got a couple of running backs that remind me a little bit of like the Charger guys. In Phillip Lindsay, he's kind of a little Austin Eckler in him. And if you had a guy like Phillip Rivers throwing to the Emmanuel Sanderses of the world, you have a legitimate AFC contending team, and I would love to see that. That would be so awesome.
Would you be a Broncos fan?
I would be
Rock the orange.
I would be a Phillip Rivers fan.
Yeah.
So I would hope.
That's
I would hope for them to
like
do well.
What we have to go with
Yeah.
now, right? Or just players that
Yeah.
we liked from the Chargers.
Yep. Totally.
Or previous
That would be
Chargers,
awesome, though.
like
I would
Drew
love that.
Brees. Any other thoughts, Thomas?
Well, to really stick it to the Spanos, I would love him to go to the Las Vegas Raiders.
That would be cool too.
That would be hilarious.
I think Derek Carr is a little more serviceable
Yeah, I know.
than Joe Flacco and company in Denver.
Yeah.
No,
Speaking
you're
of,
right.
of Bronco quarterbacks, Bronco greats, Brock Osweiler retired
Yes.
today after
Yes.
a 7-year career.
Yeah, it was the year they went to the Super Bowl, right? When he
Yeah.
and Manning split time
Yeah.
due to Manning's injuries.
Yep.
Ultimately, Peyton was the starter for the quarterback and won his second Super Bowl after I think his worst statistical season. But Osweiler played pretty good that season and netted I think it was a 4-year, $72 million deal with the Texans.
Ooh, baby.
I mean, I forget exactly how much was guaranteed, but still, it's kind of crazy how over the years some of these quarterbacks that have had these brief stints for a half a season or a season milk these huge contracts.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Castle and Cousins, I think he had a little bit more to show, but still, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of money in there for quarterbacks, not much for the running backs.
Who was that Green Bay quarterback? It was Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn, yeah.
Matt Flynn. He went to the Seahawks, and that year they drafted Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson beat him out in camp. And everyone's like, Pete Carroll, you have to play Matt Flynn. You're paying him all this money. He's like, I don't care. If Russell Wilson's better, I'm playing him.
Wow.
That was crazy because Wilson was like a 3rd or 4th round pick or something, and they had Matt Flynn in there for that big money. He had played one game with Green Bay and was really good.
Yeah.
Like they put up 50-something points and he looked awesome.
I think he threw for like close to 500 yards.
But it was one game.
Right? Oh, goodness.
And then the cojones on Pete Carroll to say, no, this is my guy, Russell Wilson, out of Wisconsin, originally NC State. And Russell Wilson's now, man, he's right at the top of the MVP conversation in the league. So I think Pete Carroll made the right call there.
Yeah.
All right, after 6 games, is McCaffrey your MVP?
Hell yeah.
I mean, you can't. It's hard to argue against that.
He's the fantasy football cheat code. He is just crushing it. He's a weapon, catching the ball out of the backfield. He's having a kind of season like LaDainian Tomlinson had that one year in San Diego.
2006.
2006, yeah, his MVP year when he set the touchdown record. Was it 31 or 32?
31 total
31
touchdowns.
Oh, my gosh. McCaffrey, it doesn't look like he's going to get to that number, but it's still been impressive. He's already got double-digit scores, and the amount of yardage he's putting up, close to 200 all-purpose yards per game. It's really insane what he's doing.
It is. I love part of his game that I love is his footwork. How he just is able to make so many defenders miss on on should be tackles, and he's able to break tackles. Like that one catch he had against the Bucs this week that turned into a touchdown. It was like a 20 or 25-yard touchdown. Just made like 4 defenders miss. So
yeah, and he like spins around a couple of times, couple of stiff arms, and falls backwards into the end zone, and there's no one around him. You're like, how the hell did you elude everybody? That was awesome.
Okay,
Tomas, who you got?
For MVP, that's a good one. I think
Brady.
No, I can't.
The fact that he has to think about it makes me think that Thomas thinks of the MVP award as the best quarterback award. Just kidding, Thomas.
No,
only one non-quarterback has won the award since LT in 2006.
Mm-hmm. I do think Russell Wilson should be there. I don't know if he's my pick. I don't disagree with McCaffrey being the leader right now at that. But I think Russell Wilson, boy, I was watching a couple of the games, and at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe I was wrong about the Seahawks as a team overall. I said maybe I read too much into this team, but boy, he pulls out some games that are like he's the most dangerous quarterback in the fourth quarter, and that's even with Tom Brady at the helm. I think Wilson is way more dangerous. He gets more focused. His passes become a little bit more crisper and accurate. I think it's going to be those two guys for sure. And the weird thing is about Mahomes is I watched the game last week against the Texans, and boy, he's starting now to get. I don't know if he's getting cocky or if it's injuries, but he's starting to be a little bit sloppy with the football that we never saw last year, and that kind of surprised me last week at least. In the game against the Texans, especially when that game kind of really was kind of like the telltale sign is who's the second best team behind the Patriots in the AFC.
Could be Houston. They looked pretty good. Deshaun Watson looked really good in that game. Speaking of MVP candidates, how about someone like a Nick Bosa with the 49ers, or a defensive player?
Yeah, you'd love to see somebody from the defensive side.
There are some really solid defenses there. The Patriots with a historic defense at this point. This kind of year might be a year to see a running back or a defensive player at least in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. My guy that I love watching is Aaron Donald for the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh.
What he can
That
do
guy
on
is-
the defensive line. Obviously, he's not going to put up huge numbers with the sacks, maybe. But what he can do on an individual level, just mauling through guys, I love watching that guy.
A lot of value there for sure.
All right, that wraps up our NFL talk. Using my McGregor's napkins as cliff notes here. We switch over to Major League Baseball. No game tonight as the Yankees-Astros game gets postponed, Game 4. But just overall, an exciting playoffs going on. And I'm joined by my newly crowned Nationals fan, Brian Vilvin, rocking. That's a beautiful hat. I do have to say,
It is a gorgeous hat.
right?
Yeah.
Wow. The Washington Nationals, that escalated quickly.
It did. I mean, a lot of people were talking about them being the type of team built to win a short series, like a 5-game set against the Dodgers. That was going to be troublesome because their 2 horses at the top of the rotation are just so good. And if you get to have, 3 games pitched by 2 of those guys, then you're probably going to be in pretty good shape to at least be involved in those games. But how about the work that Anibal Sanchez did, that Patrick Corbin did, striking out 12 last night? When you get that deep in a pitching staff and the offense has been dealing, they had 3 pitchers in the NLCS strike out double-digit number batters, including Patrick Corbin's 12 last night. Strasburg had 12 the night before. Scherzer with a double-digit strikeout outing. Anibal Sanchez had a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 8th inning. Like, just the way that they pitched their way through the NL playoffs so far has been incredible. And I think they are a legitimate World Series champion caliber team. I think they could give a run for the money to the Astros or the Yankees.
I agree with you. I mean, they've made the series already. The depth of their pitching is incredible. They're going to have, a week of rest.
A month and a half off before
right?
the World Series.
With the Yankees Astros series at 2-1 right now.
And a rain out too. So.
I mean, you could definitely imagine that, especially as their offense has come alive quite a bit here in the last week. I like that. Just they're a fun team for me to watch. There's not really teams outside of the Dodgers that I hate per se in this in these playoffs, but they've been a fun team to watch, and I would really like to see them win.
Yeah, they by far the surprise of the playoffs. It's funny. They're the oldest team too in baseball, and it's so funny when you hear during in game during the season from these commentators saying you have to get younger. It's more about with less steroids now in the game, that you need younger players to kind of fulfill 102, to win a 162 game schedule. But I was looking at it like I didn't even know Brian Dozier was on the Nationals until the other night. I was like, how did he get there? There's just like they got certain guys that I didn't know they were on their roster and they're playing key roles. And the one for me is Howie Kendrick, because
so awesome.
Howie Kendrick used to kill the Yankees when they played each other in the early 2000s, and he's just been amazing in this playoffs. And I know we talked about his hiccups fielding wise, but boy, his bat is lethal, and he's scary to watch.
Well, it was exciting in Game 5 of the NLDS against the Dodgers when he came up with the bases loaded in the 10th inning and hit that grand slam. Right before he hit the grand slam, they were talking about some of the offensive struggles that he had throughout the year after his Achilles injury from a year ago and throughout the playoffs. So to see him bounce back like that and hit that home run and then have it turn into an NLCS MVP award was just incredible. The guy got hot, stayed hot, and you talk about the veteran leadership on that team. He's one of those guys. A Ryan Zimmerman who's been around forever in that lineup, and then a guy like Max Scherzer leading the pitching staff.
Yep.
They have such a great mix. They've also got the second best young player in the league behind Fernando Tatis Jr. and Juan Soto. That guy's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I like Adam Eaton's approach. He's the kind of guy who, he can go up there and bunt his way on base. They're exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how exciting they were to watch until these playoffs, and it has been exciting.
Yeah. Don't forget about our boy Fernando Rodney helping out that bullpen. I forgot he was on that team. This is like how crazy the playoffs is, right?
Wait,
like
you mean Fernando
yes,
Rodney?
there we go. I think
There
it's
you
the
go.
other way.
Is it this way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of like at the side.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Oh,
we
that
were
hurts.
we were here, filming an episode for the play-in game between the Nationals and the Brewers. The Nationals probably should have lost that game if
Yeah.
it weren't for a big fielding error from Milwaukee. So that's the beauty of the playoffs, I guess.
Hey, just win, baby.
So this performance from the Nationals has us dreaming that one day a team like that in these confines of San Diego could do something similar.
Yep.
So we're a
I'm
ways
keeping the
away
faith,
from
baby.
that.
We might be, but it's inspiring to see another franchise, one that hasn't ever been there before, but to see that and then imagine that happening at Petco, oh my God. I just can't, I get all I get excited, I get jittery even thinking about that being us.
Yeah.
And wearing the Browns. Whew.
Oof, right?
Oh,
how,
baby.
how exciting for their fans. They're watching Game 5 against the Dodgers from home. They watch the first two from home at St. Louis, and then at home for the Nationals fans, they finish it off with a sweep. I'm jealous of Nationals
Me
fans.
too. Yep. Never thought you'd be saying that, right?
Yeah. Oh, Thomas. Man. Did you see any of the stuff that got tweeted out once the Nationals advanced, saying that, a championship is going to come back to D.C., essentially making Bryce Harper eat his words that he accidentally spoke when he became a new Philadelphia Philly?
Yeah, this has really been, to me, the story for me is what is Bryce Harper thinking when he's watching these playoffs? I would assume he's not watching it.
Yeah.
It's just too painful to watch. Obviously he didn't want to be there. They offered him a $300 million contract supposedly at the end of the season. He turned it down. And by what he got from from the Phillies, he was probably smart in that area. But, boy, man, it just goes to show you, sometimes just wait it out. I know you could be frustrated in a situation, but, man, this has to hurt. It just, it seems like from all reports today that the Nationals, this is going to be it for them, team-wise, because Rodon is going to be a free agent. Sounds like he wants to go back home to Texas. And Strasburg is going to opt out, so he's going to be looking for it. So this is going to be like
You're allowed to say he's going to go
he'll
back
he'll
home.
be here.
to
He'll be
say
here.
the same
Him
thing.
too.
Yeah,
Of
come on,
course.
come on.
Absolutely.
Don't just give don't hand off Rendon back to Texas and we don't get Strasburg. Come on.
We talked about it before.
Yep. I know.
But it just seems like, this is going to be their one opportunity, and then they're going to have to rebuild. But like Brian said, they have some excellent young pieces. But man, this is your one opportunity, and I see them being very dangerous for whatever happens on the American League side. And that team's going to go in there being tired because now they're going to have to play 4 straight days of playoff baseball, and then start that next Tuesday the World Series in their park. And I just don't know if you could get your pitching staff in line with the Nationals. I mean, like you guys said, it's going to be Scherzer, Strasburg, and company. Definitely for those first 4 games, and after that, it's a crapshoot. But boy, that's going to be hard to kind of get your head around when you go to the World Series.
Yeah, and Patrick Corbin looked like Cy Young last night, and Anibal Sanchez he's given up 1 hit in the last month and a half. So they're going to line everything up. They'll have Scherzer and Strasburg for 2 World Series games each.
Yep.
So you're talking about 4 of the 7 games will be started by 2 of the best pitchers in the game.
And you may see
baby.
1 or 2 of them, in relief if
Yeah,
needed, if
totally.
it comes down to that.
And they're going to have all this extra rest,
Yeah.
so then they'll have access to those guys. If it gets down to a game 6 or a game 7 and it's all hands on deck, I wouldn't be surprised to see either one of those guys come in relief.
Yeah, and how key is the rest now? Because I thought they were being overused, especially in that Dodgers series where they were coming out of the pen. I think it's a perfect time to get their bodies in line and ready to go against the American League. They can very easily upset the American League team easily.
Yeah, that sweep was super important just to be able to get all that rest and get the starters lined up. You don't want to have to go back to those guys again in the NLCS. Yeah. Man, the Nats, baby. Ooh, Washington.
Oh, yeah. Survive in advance. Something I don't really know how to do these days.
Yeah, me either. I don't want to talk about it.
All right, so transitioning for our final topic of the 2021 or 2022 World Series champions, the San Diego Padres. Leaving that one a little open.
Thomas has that, or is it you that
you
have them as the
winning
NL West
the division championship next year? Making up
Playoffs
30 games on the Dodgers one season to the next.
Hey, I've heard of crazier.
Yeah, right? Okay, so a big part of them becoming a playoff team is their managerial decision in the next couple of weeks or days, whenever it's going to come to fruition.
It's probably going to happen the moment we get off air.
Yeah, right?
We're going to look up at the TV and it's going to say
look at our phones.
Padres agreed to deal with.
Hey, and so from what I've read, at least today, two leading candidates in Ron Washington, a very well-known name in the game of baseball, and then our boy, Jace Tingler, a favorite with A.J. Preller. And it's still possible that it might not be one of those two. Like, there could be somebody else that comes up. But, of those two, who do you like?
Well, when we shot last week, I had only heard of Jace Tingler because of Dennis Lynn's article about Jace Tingler and all these people talking about him, and I kind of thought it was like a joke. Not a joke as in this guy sucks and isn't qualified to be a manager, but a joke as in like, oh, of course they're going to hire some guy named Jace Tingler, you know? It sounds like they might hire some guy named Jace Tingler. The more I hear about him, the more I get it and could kind of get on board with it. Obviously, I know Ron Washington, and that's a proven winner who could come in and command the clubhouse immediately. But, I don't know. I think it's probably just my blind faith in everything that the Padres do. I just assume that it's all going to work out for the best. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I really, just my gut doesn't really like either of those two.
Yeah.
But, man, if they hire Jace Tingler, I'm for sure getting a Tingler brown and gold. I told you guys. I joked
last week. You didn't know who was good.
I joked last week about it.
Yep.
But, hey, if that comes to fruition, I guess I got to do it.
Okay. I'm down for that. If they hire him before the end of today, you have to get a Jace Tingler brown jersey. Okay.
Absolutely. I
You
might
guys
have to
heard it here.
customize that on
Padres.com. You don't think they'll sell
I don't know if they're going to have it at the team store.
What number do you think Tingler is?
15.
I like how you just had a number. You didn't have to think about
like
it.
15.
That's so good. That's the best answer I've ever heard.
No, I'm going. Our managers usually lower numbers, right?
I don't know, man. I have no clue.
You're not going to go 55 or something, right?
I'm going with his age, 38, right? I think that's how old he is.
He's 38. Wow. What the hell am I doing with my life?
All right, Thomas.
Analytic.
We need a hot take from Thomas.
Hot take, Thomas. I'm finding out Tingler's number.
It just doesn't really. These two names don't excite me, but I agree with Brian. I would rather have Ron Washington. He's took two teams to the World Series, so I know he has the job. But boy, the more I hear about Tingler, I'm all like, that could be the guy, and I just don't know if that kind of moves the needle for me.
I know.
In the next season. I hope so, but we'll see. To me, it really comes more down to the players than the manager. But if they bring Tingler in, but you still have the majority of the coaching staff, then I'm kind of fine with it. But I definitely want an experienced manager. God, I think the team just desperately screams for a guy that's been there for a few years.
Yeah, like we said, we need somebody that the players will get behind.
Yeah.
And that, this is a huge decision, right? This is the new era of Padres baseball. that's been building up. So it's a big choice by Preller and the, a little bit of the input by ownership.
Number 32, Jay
32?
Stingler, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if he'll keep it when he comes to San Diego,
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like one of those decisions that we're going to look back on and think it's one of the most impactful decisions that happened to the franchise during the rebuild. I know they hate that term, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued because of what Round Fowler said at that fan forum.
Yeah.
If Preller's just saying, well, I'm going to go with the guy that I want to bring in, and if I'm going to get tossed out of here, I want to go with the guy that I feel comfortable with in the dugout. But, man, to me, what I think about is wasting a year of Fernando Tatis Jr., somebody that does it, that needs, he's a rookie too, and that always to me is like I worry about stuff like that when you talk about a guy like Tingler. So I don't know. I'm not happy with the choices, but at least with one of them.
The only one who's off the table is Joe Madden, who signed with the Angels today.
Yeah.
And Andy, you were telling me something cool about Joe Madden and the Angels, which I did not know.
Yeah, Madden's been within the Angels organization was for 30 years, from 1975 to 2005.
That is crazy.
In a variety of roles with their minor league clubs, ultimately becoming the bench coach when they won the World Series in 2002 against the San Francisco Giants. So yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense for them.
Yep.
Yeah, we liked him obviously as a candidate here with the Padres.
He was my number one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's huge for the Angels. They've kind of been mired in mediocrity the last few years.
With a pretty talented roster, though. They've got the best player unquestionably in baseball, Mike Trout, a really cool dynamic player in a Shohei Ohtani. I think they've got some pieces. They could be pretty good. They've had some weird things happen to them, and they're in a really tough division, which makes it difficult when you have to play 19 division games against each one of those teams. But, yeah, they could be a little sleeper contender next year in the AL.
Do you think a manager like Madden attracts free agents to Anaheim that maybe wouldn't put them on their radar, but he's there now?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so. With what he did with the Cubs,
Yeah, and the way he was in Tampa, too. Like, people have always really liked Joe Madden as a manager and as a guy. Yeah, shoot. I was bummed when I saw that. I was still kind of holding out hope. I was like, okay, they haven't made it official yet. Like, there's a chance. So, yep. We move on.
Time will
to
tell.
The tingle.
We keep we keep believing that greatness is
I think we
on the
all come
horizon.
to the fact that he's going to be the manager. I think
It's kind of what it feels like, man. I think we're getting tingled.
We'll see.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
Yeah, right. Oh, what a name!
It's a good name at least.
All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap it up here for episode 13. Thanks for joining us, my friends. Thanks for joining me, Brian and Thomas.
Thanks to our studio audience today.
Yes.
Woo!
Chris and Spencer.
Thank you, guys.
They're too busy in a high.
Spencer's watching preseason basketball right now because he's getting ready to give us a big NBA report on one of these pods. Sharpie's busy watching the NHL because apparently hockey's already started.
Yeah, and now I think Brian's got some plans afterward to plan something. He's a guy that plans to make plans.
Yeah, the plan is to make a plan. We're planning. Got together to do a little planning, and
I heard they have an analytical team to plot their trip to Scottsdale.
Well, we haven't determined yet if we're going to go strictly analytics or feel it out a little bit. Yeah, there's team feel, there's team tingle.
Brian's got a tingle about this Padres team in 2019. Or sorry, 2020. I'm lost. Okay, I think we're done here, guys. Thanks again. Good things on the horizon for the connection here. See you next time.